why you want to have policies and terms and conditions in place to protect your business. Stalkerish. Authorities were involved. You think that your audience thinks that you're unrelatable. And the person responded, even though they were blocked on my Instagram with 3 to 4 profiles. Hey, great day, everybody. So in today's Car Chit Chat, I'm going to be talking about the importance of why you want to have terms and conditions and policies, whether you are having some type of online program, some type of service, whether it be digital products and or clinical services or a live event. So let's go ahead and hop into it. Hey, great day, everybody. So let's do some storytelling time. And I want to take you all the way back to I think it was 2019, okay? So in 2019, I was still in my earlier years of my coaching programs, and I started hosting live events first. For me, hosting live events was a seamless process, only because I had been teaching for so many years at that time, definitely over a decade, and it was easier for me to convey my message, dissect information, and simplify information in person. And so I started off doing in person first, and then I went to online because online wasn't like a real big thing in 2019 as it is now. And so throughout that time, I decided to first host an event in Los Angeles County. Actually, at my private practice office, I had access to a conference room. And then after I did that first event, I had 8 therapists come to the event. I decided to step outside my comfort zone, and I had my very first out-of-state event. And I love going to New York. This is when I, proclaimed that I was bi-coastal. Per statistics, my audience, over 75% of my audience was on the East Coast. And out of the 75, I'm going to say about 40% of them were actually in New York and the DMV area, which is crazy, right? I don't know how that happened. I'm in California. And so I decided to host a CE workshop for 2 days. And I did it on product ascension model, which is ultimately like developing your product suite, what product you offer after another in a particular like grad school, like undergrad, like college, undergrad, and grad school, etc. But how do you create that? What is your niche? The 2 days were CEs, APA certified. And so I end up selling 5 tickets out of the 8. And for reference in terms of structure, I was able to host it, and all this matters until the story. So I was able to host it at what's called a sister location of the office that I had for my private practice. And I had a full-time private practice at this time. So, we set it up. I talked to the person. I had actually met the person before I went out there so that I can see the space or whatnot, because I had, again, proclaimed that I would have even a private practice in New York, or just something, right? I don't know. And so once I started selling tickets, when I sold the 5, I knew 3 out of the 5 people. No. I knew 4 out of the 5 people. So one person was already part of my one-on-one coaching product. The second person was part of our private practice academy known as DTA. The third person I had just connected with online through Instagram. And the other 2 people I did not, one other person I didn't know through Instagram, but we weren't talking like that. And then the other person I did not know at all, okay? So typically what happens when I go out of town, back then, Instagram was not where it was now. All this precise location, geotags, all that stuff was still developing. And I would post, not in the moment, but I may post at the end of my day, right? When it came down to sometimes taking my audience along with me through then what became highlights, but it was stories, I definitely sometimes was posting in the moment. So when we had this event, I was very clear with my rules, just like they are today. I do not do refunds on live events. So double, triple check your babysitters, everything, because, you bought a seat. And you can choose to sell your seat to someone else because it's not a program or a live event where people have to be vetted or an application. But you must notify us of the person. And you want to make sure that they understand what they're signing up for, because they're going to have to fill out a registration. And then we have to have their email address and all the things. But we made it very clear, we're not helping you fill your spot if you cannot come. Okay, those were the rules. So one person could not come due to a family emergency. They hit me up, totally understandable, but they end up selling their ticket to someone else. Now, unfortunately, that someone else, I don't even believe came. So that's how 2 got knocked down out of the 5 to then 3. So when we hosted the event, I took my assistant out there to New York. Quick little tip, okay? Do not fly in to an event on a red-eye flight the night before. The flight was fine, but I don't go to sleep on flights. So I was up for pretty much all the flight. And once we got there, hotel room wasn't available. And so I had to change in the bathroom. Talk about like a journey I can take you on in terms of like lessons learned. And so we got there at 6 o'clock. My event started at 9, which meant that I needed to be over there to the office at 8. Needless to say, all I had was Starbucks, okay? I wasn't tired, but I definitely felt that like at the end of the first day, but not all the way because I was on a high, right? So when I got there, the 2 out of the 3 people were present. Now, in my terms and conditions, when you sign up for a live event, I highly recommend that, still to this day, you don't schedule calls that day. You don't schedule team meetings that day. You don't see clients that day. You don't step away and have a session in the lobby. And we've had people in our live events do this time and time and time again. And I get that our schedule is precious, but I also believe in the time that you set aside to invest in yourself and your business. So why would you take time away from that investment to do something that could have been rescheduled? Because it's not like I popped up and had an event like tomorrow. I usually plan my events no less than 6 months out. No less than, okay? So fast forward 2 to 3 hours within the first day, the third person that we knew was supposed to come is not there. And my team member reached out to that person, no response. So the person comes in probably a little bit before lunch, and I'm gonna put it in a category of very disheveled in terms of presentation. It looks like kind of like if you rushing somewhere, you running up a flight of stairs or whatever, like, oh my God, I'm glad I made it. So it came with that energy as well. And I just felt in my gut something was off, but I'm not sure what. So then as the other 2 people are kind of having what's called a hot seat, and they're asking questions, getting information about how to add a stream of income to their business, I have binders. So when they came in, they had like a white 1-inch 3-ring binder, and they have all of their outlines. So I don't know if you've ever been in a classroom before where, let's just say you're taking the test. Somebody comes in late and slams the door. Somebody comes in late and starts opening up their backpack. You hear the ASMR, the zipper, they shuffle it through their backpack. That's the energy this was giving in the moment this person entered the room. And I can tell I wasn't the only one disturbed by it, because as people were talking, they kept stopping because they were losing track of what they were talking about because of all the things that were happening in the room with this one individual. But, you know, we proceeded with the day. Now, this person happened to come in. Let me see if this was the first day or the second day. No, this is the first day. So by the time they came in, I was providing education around, and it was so ironic, terms and conditions of when you have a product, refund policies, expectations, and communication, right? So I was sharing, and I got to tell you a story of what happened before this, that all of this will make sense. So I was sharing how I have a rule in my company based off of some incidents that had happened. And I don't say names or anything like that, but I use it as learning experiences because these are the things that these people said they wanted to know. These are the questions that they were asking. So I have a curriculum, and then I have specialty topics where I'm prepared to answer these questions when they ask them. And I usually know a lot of the questions are usually going to be around customer service, disgruntled customers, because we're therapists. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but at the same time, we got to step into our, big girl boots, big boy boots, entrepreneurship, and make calls like, hey, we can't work with you. Like the signs when you go into a restaurant, like we have the right to refuse service to anyone, that kind of thing. So when this person was coming in and this other person was asking questions, it was around, what do you do when someone stops paying? Now, my answer, and then I'll tell you the backstory behind this story. My answer was, I have a process in my business where if you are in a payment plan of a program and you default in your payment, we have in the terms and conditions and or contractual agreement, whichever one was available when you checked out, you either check a button saying you reviewed the terms and conditions and or you signed a contract. And it says we have the right to continue to follow up with you to get the funds, regardless if you use the program or not. You signed up for the program. You knew what you were signing up for, all these things, right? And then on top of that, we have the right to lock you out of access of the product or service. All of this is in our terms and conditions for every program. Y'all can read them. Y'all can go back to it, right? And then it also says that you're not allowed to join any of our other programs. Meaning I have the right, if you decide to get a link and join through a back way, or like at one point I had an evergreen where it was just kind of running in the background. If you somehow find yourself on that list and you get access, I will kindly refund you your money. Now, the person who I came in late heard all of this. And all of a sudden, I noticed that they looked uncomfortable with their presentation. The other people also looked at the person like, why do they look uncomfortable? This is a good conversation. Da, da, da. So the person all of a sudden said, oh, I got to leave early. And they were like, all the good girls were concerned. They were like, you just got here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to catch you up. Da, da, da. We can go to lunch together or whatever. So they went to lunch, came back. And then the person left an hour and a half early from the first day. Now, my assistant, and neither do you clearly, know why the person started reacting like this. And so I told my assistant during lunchtime, because I always encourage when people come to a live event and lunch is outside the venue, meaning sometimes to keep the event investment low, we will have an event in a place where just go grab lunch for an hour and 15 minutes and come back. But I would encourage y'all to connect with each other during lunch, because that's when sometimes y'all can kind of just like process what's going on, get to know each other, etc. So they all went and done that. Now, I don't remember if they went out with the person, but nevertheless, they all left. So I told my assistant what was happening in the history of it, which I'll peep you up on game in a second. And then when we came back, the person left an hour and a half early. Then they told us before they left, they don't know if they're coming back tomorrow. And even I was like, what? And so they came back the next day. They definitely came in and said, they got called into work. It was something that I don't remember exactly, but it did not match what they said the day before. And so we said, okay, we just all chalked it up. Nobody talked about it. We act like it did not happen, but it clearly happened. So the backstory. In 2020, I went crazy. We're like launching DTA, the Dope Therapist Private Practice Academy, like 7 times. I was only supposed to launch it twice. But clearly we all know what was happening in 2020, and a lot of therapists were definitely opening up businesses a lot more in higher frequency than in the past. So because of my heart and my capacity at the time, even though my capacity was definitely almost getting maxed out, I continued to offer DTA. However, because a certain time of the year starts leaning toward our mastermind, because we have launches at certain times of the year, I decided to say, you know what? I have a coach that taught me how to put things on Evergreen. I end up investing in an Evergreen coaching program as well. And so I'm like, let me try it out. And I end up getting 7 sales in like 3 weeks. Now, compared to 25 to 30 sales in a boot camp launch, that was low to me, but I didn't realize that I didn't have to show up present, and it was a 1.5 hour or 75-minute webinar, automated. Like, I wasn't there. And I'm like, I realized 3 years later or 2 years later that was actually above the statistical norm. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? And so, nevertheless, this particular person who had came to the event late, they were the person who defaulted in payment. Cliffhanger, right? So I hope you can piece up now why the uncomfortability and the ironicness, that's not even a word, of what I was referencing earlier, why it was just like, I believe God don't make no mistakes and everything happened on purpose, right? But it was just interesting how, just as a little recap, she came in at the time where somebody was asking about, like, what do you do when someone doesn't pay? And what ended up happening, a backstory to the backstory to the backstory. Let me go back one more. She actually joined DTA when I had a boot camp. She defaulted in payment. When she joined the Evergreen, and she had already bought a ticket to this event. So if y'all wondering, like, why did you let her like keep the event? It was already purchased. Okay. So it kind of slipped my mind, to be honest. There was a lot of stuff going on in 2020, 2021. But this event, was in 2019. So she, you know what? Because I'm sitting there processing it in my head right now. Okay, let me back up. She joined DTA in 2019, the first cohort. She defaulted in DTA in 2019. That's what it was. And she had already bought a ticket for the live event in 2019. When she defaulted in payment, I didn't do anything about the live event because I didn't have this rule yet. Then she signed up for the Evergreen process later on in 2020. That's what it was. So it was DTA, defaulted payment, live event, but I didn't have a rule yet. I implemented the rule, shared it at the event because some other things that happened, whatever, with other products. And then she joined, or she attempted to join during the Evergreen process. When her name came in, it was flagged, and I refunded her the money. But what I did before I refunded her the money is I sent her an email, and I said, my assistant, my VA did at the time, and they pretty much said in a nice way, unfortunately, you're unable to join DTA. You defaulted in payment previously. We reached out to you on this day. Like, we keep a list of like when we reached out or whatever. And you opened up the emails, you didn't respond, like all these things. So we refunded her the money. Okay. So let me go back to New York. This is more protection. What I just explained to you thus far was why you want to have policies and terms and conditions in place to protect your business. Now, more of why I was bringing up Instagram and geotags and precise location and all the things is because, like I said, back then I was posting in the moment. So fast forward, there were some things that happened via email that felt over time stalkerish. Okay. And it got to the point where authorities were involved. And I know this is the things that only we hear about in ethics class. And let me just give this disclaimer. I know that some therapists are thinking like, what the beep? And then some people are like, hey, you're telling a story about someone that was in the community. And I want to be clear. I find that sometimes therapists live in what I call Barbie land, which means that kind of like a kid, the invincible complex. If it ain't happened to me, it ain't gonna happen. Even if it happened to somebody close to you, it ain't gonna happen. And I've been an ethics professor time and time again. And what I find is the best lessons to share are the real ones that have happened. And what my team started sharing with me most recently is, my husband actually asked me this question, and I'll get to tell y'all what happened at the end, is he said, I don't know your answer to this question, but do you think that your audience thinks that you're unrelatable? And he said that because of another chit chat that I will do as like a little series of this, right? And I said yes and no. I believe that when I show the outcome of what my business has been able to do for my personal life, it can look desirable, but to some, depending on the mindset of the person who's watching it, whether it's in lack or abundant mindset, which most people don't even realize they got a lack mindset, because I didn't know I had one, right? Because I had nice things, in my life at the time. I had a 6-figure job, a new house, but I didn't realize that I still was like keeping myself or humbling myself too low, where I was like afraid to say what I really wanted, but I just got what I thought I could have, right? And that's a lack mindset. That's like complacency. And so depending on who's watching me may say, oh my God, I want that. I want the dream schedule. I want the vacations. I want the time with the kids. I want husband, date nights, whatever. But that seems too far-fetched. She out my league, right? And that was triggered by some things that have happened recently that, again, I'll share it on another episode because it is an emotional topic. So, and it's been happening for me in terms of like internally for about 4 years at this point. And it's hard. So it takes me to sit down to figure out how I'm going to present it. I don't really care about if I get emotional or not. It is what it is. But I always want to have a learning lesson, not just a storytelling situation. You know what I'm saying? And so I'll share that. But bringing it back, when he had asked me about relatability and all the things, he was saying, and so was my team member, maybe, and he brought up this situation. He said, have you ever thought about sharing all the stuff, and you can choose which ones, but like make what's really happening behind the scenes a case study and share it on your platform, because people need to know the real ugly shit that happens. You feel me? And I'm like, you right. And I'm like, he said something, and I'm like, I want to share this one because it directly correlates with why you also want to have terms and conditions, why you don't want to be overly people-pleasing at all or nice with your terms and conditions of your business. I don't care if it's your private practice. If you said that you have a 2 no-show policy and then the person is removed from your caseload, that's just what it is. That's just what it is. If you define extenuating circumstances and somebody starts doing the woe is me, can I come back? That's your discretion, but whatever your rule is, stick with your rule, because these people will walk all over you. Clients are still humans, right? And so at the end of the day, there's still a lesson to be learned. So the end of this little story, that happened in 2019, moving into 2020 with a whole lot of just not cool things that were happening. And so when was my son born? 2018, 19. This had to be, I don't know why I feel like it was like the same year. It was one of the years where we went to New York with the kids. And, we like to go shopping in New York. Or I don't know if we go shopping in New York. So I don't remember what shoe store we were at, but we were in one of those where you have to go up the escalator to get to the shoe store itself. And I remember technically creating a mini vlog for Instagram with stories then turned into highlights of like, what do you do after you, come out here to work? Because I was going out there for pleasure, but I work on my computer and stuff like that and do stuff online and workshops and stuff. So the person responded to my message after they had been red flagged, removed from my email list more than 7 times, removed from our customer service email more than 7 times, separate systems, and told multiple times, please refrain from contacting us, all the things. Then my my team members started getting emails to their email addresses. Some things were definitely off, related to how the person was presenting. Remember the disheveledness? I'll just leave it at that. And so at that point, of course, I got empathy the whole time. And I'm just like, something ain't right. I'm not being like clapping back. I'm just like, please again, stop doing this or I'm going to have to like involve more people again, kind of thing. So as I was with my children and my husband, which is why unless I'm at a therapist event, and even that, I still don't post in a moment. I'll post at the end of the day when I'm done at the venue. We were going up to this shoe store and I posted in the moment, like, oh, look at this shoe store. They got some good deals or whatever. And the person responded, even though they were blocked on my Instagram with 3 to 4 profiles. They somehow figured out a way to send me a message through another profile created. and they said, oh, you out here in New York again. Where are you at so I can come meet you? What store is that? What? And so I'm like, delete. In that moment, I made the decision for the protection of me and my family. I will no longer post in the moment. So learning lessons on a personal nature. I know y'all know this, but little bitty things, depending on who's watching you, cannot be safe. And it sucks because this started off as business related, turned into personal scares. I wasn't in fear for my life, I'll say that, but I was concerned. And my husband was concerned, and my team members were concerned, to the point where every single team member knew who this person was. And no lie, up to this date, because I've gotten an email probably once a year at best, is we at this point, I think, have blocked over 10 email addresses, over 10 social media profiles on Instagram and Facebook, and it's just gotten out of hand. But I'm sharing all that because, thank goodness, I have my terms and conditions in place, even to remove somebody from my program. So I'm not sharing this to scare you, but it's a two-parter. It's policies and procedures are key to the health of your business and to the protection of yourself, even if I'm talking about legalities, right? And also, as a mental health provider, we give ourselves to our people. And we want to make sure that we have boundaries. And boundaries sometimes are hard to give when you may see someone else hurting. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be hurt because someone else is hurting. Will I give you resources? Of course I will. But if it comes to the point where you're crossing lines between professional and personal boundaries, and the last one, I do not tolerate at all. We got a joke in my house, but it's not a joke. There's layers to me. And only my closest people have ever seen these layers come out. And these layers ain't came out in decades, but they've been close and tempted. There is Dr. TK, like Michelle Obama, she up here, you know what I'm saying? Then you got TK. Then you got Takesha. These are all my thresholds. You got Takesha. Then you got Keisha. The last one, that girl ain't came out since she was 14 or something. That's Keish, right? We keep her in the box. Because some of y'all are new to me. If you new, welcome, subscribe. I don't always do car chit chats like this, but it's about time that we do the good, bad, and the ugly times 1,000. Because we're human as providers. But if you're not new here, I'm like, I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't like talk at people, but this is just me having a conversation like you right here on the side of the car, and you getting to know me, right? Like when you are low-key friends with somebody, like you get to know all layers of them. And I don't mind sharing like obstacles that I've had as a child, because those things made me into the person that I am today. Like working with difficult teens came from me being a difficult teen, right? But I was a difficult teen because no one listened. I ain't gonna say no one, but some people did not listen, like teachers and stuff, right? For stupid shit. And so because they didn't listen, I made sure to be an advocate for kids who feel like they're not being listened to. But then I realized maybe caregivers, teachers don't know how to communicate. So that's when I do workshops with parents and teachers on how to communicate to the kids so that they can feel safe, to be open. You see how your past kind of dictates who you become if you just open up the door. So I say all that to say, I hope you learned something in this little car chit chat. Let me know in the comment box. What was your takeaway? What are some things that you need to look up, even if it's as simple as I need to implement a rule for how many times someone can cancel on me before I remove them from my private practice caseload. I need to put in my rules for my scalable products that I have the right to remove you from the program. I have the right, if you default in a payment plan, to remove all services and access until you pay, and you still will have to pay. I have the right, if you are in default in another program, not to let you in another one. Okay, cover yourself. All right. So, all right, y'all, that brings me to a close. I am almost at my destination. I am headed to the juvenile long-term facility. It's not called a camp, but a long-term facility where the young men have already been convicted of whatever crime they had. And so today we are going to be doing independent living skills, potentially introduction to psychology 101, depending on how much time we have left in the workshop. But I love chit chatting with y'all, especially on these drives, y'all, because they are long, but I did good today. I stuck with under 30 minutes. And so I love y'all. Make sure you come back for more, subscribe, and like this video and share it with somebody. All right, y'all. Bye.